So I decided to title my talk Enacting Hope Through Action because I felt that it sort of reflected my story, like all the other speakers. I'm going to use my story and trying to connect it to other people's stories in this country to try and highlight the problem, the broader problem as it relates to education. I'm also then going to use people in my story as agents of change, as representatives of what restitution could look like in this country, which is really something that I drew from Charlene's work that we've been wrestling with here at church on how to do restitution. What is restitution? How is it different from charity? And that's really my hope for this evening, that that my examples will sort of encourage you to do something. I don't prescribe the 10 steps on how you should go about approaching restitution through education, but I'm hoping the people in my story serve as an encouragement for all of us. So my journey through education sort of starts in 2008. 2008 is the year that I graduated from high school. I was one of 4 children. I see there are about 6 there. The other 2 are my cousin. I was one of 4 children. I am one of 4 children, and I'm the only one to go to university. 2008, it was on me to really try and make it. I had watched my 3 siblings struggle to get into university. They had no means of getting into any form of tertiary education. And like the 1.4 million children, young people in this country who are sitting at home or who are wandering about the streets, and who recently reported that they weren't attending any form of tertiary education because they didn't have means to, they didn't have access to resources, they didn't have any connection to get them into any form of FET college or university. So in 2008, I got to feel what they feel every day. Fortunately for me, my father had gone to university, so he kept on pushing me, and he projected all his dreams on me. But I had applied to 2 universities, and I got into them. But sadly, I didn't get any scholarships that I had applied for. So it was December 2008, I needed to make a plan. If the saying, it takes a whole village to raise a child, it really took a whole village to get me into undergraduate. Through connections, my brothers, my sister, my father, all ready to find a way to get me into university. And last minute, in 2008, when I was supposed to register, my aunt came on board. At the time, my aunt owned a construction company. It was doing well, but she also had her own children to take care of. But she committed to 2 years that she said, look, I'll pay for your first 2 years of university in exchange that you don't stuff up, because I'm not paying for you to repeat. That was a good enough motivation, and that got me, I promised myself not to play around, not to confuse that I'm like one of the other kids at university. So I got through the first year and the second year, and by having the foot in the door, I got to access information about where to apply for scholarships, where to apply for bursaries, and I managed to get a scholarship that would pay for my 3rd year, and then I had enough also to save up for my honors at Stellenbosch, and that was my life-saving boat. I had managed to get through undergraduate. My family was so proud of me, and I had enough to be able to pay for my honors. I think I wanted to include a picture of my student card at honors, because for registration, as you know, we pay between 18,000 to 21,000. So I had saved up 19,000, and I remember swiping 18,000 at the counter and then going to take a picture. and I looked so bleak. I was like, I was about to cry because I had never swiped that much. But in the meantime, people behind me were swiping 30,000, 60,000. I was like, how do people do this? And that's where I started to taste a little bit of inequality, because I started sitting in class with children that were driving Subarus, Audis, BMW. And I said, what kind of parents do this to their child? Because some of them were borderline narcissists, you cannot. I was like, what are you working towards? I'm working towards having an Audi, you already have it. So that was an interesting experience. And so I managed to register, but I had no cooking clue how I was going to cover for the rest of the fees. August 2012, I also wanted to finish my honors and then do medicine, but also applied for master's degrees as a backup, just in case I don't get into medicine. Applied for 2 masters. I got in, one at Stellenbosch, one at UCT, and also got into the exam to start medicine at third year. I had to write the exam, and I didn't know how I was going to get to Joburg. I just knew I had to do it, but through having a conversation with friends as to ask you how's life, I said, look, I have aspirations. I hope I've applied for all these things, but I don't know how I'm going to do it. Now, this part may be restitutional, maybe not. You can define it for yourself. But having been in Cape Town and having access to a network of friends who were white, colored, who had families that had resources, by just telling a friend, within a week and a half, a group of friends of mine were able to put together enough money to buy me a flight ticket, get me an accommodation, and I was like, how do you do that? You're my age. In the meantime, I didn't know these guys were tutoring kids at SACS, at these different places, and making close to between 6,000 to 8,000 rand a month. And I was like, that's my 2 years income that I would make. How are you making that a month? And so by having that network of friends, millennials who so privileged that they had, gave me access to be able to afford this experience. I wrote the exam. Although I didn't get into medicine, my backup plan worked. Got into a master's, enrolled at UCT. I worked during the holidays, made a little bit of money, and then I managed to gather 3,000 rand, and then went to swipe it, and then told UCT, just hang on, I want to make a plan. Little did I know, I didn't know how I was going to cover for the rest. It was 21,000 registration fees. And through chatting with a friend here and there, how's life, I said, look, I'm sitting in a class and I've got 2 weeks and I might get kicked out. A week before I was supposed to get kicked out, a friend here, a former, was a friend who has a small construction company, who has sort of could relate. He was arrested when he was young. He has got a record. He can't drive. He just donated 3,000. And another friend I used to catch a train with just donated 2,000 out of Norway. And I said, dude, you can't give me that money. I'm going to have to pay you back. And another friend who was my age chipped in another 2,000, and I paid close to 12,000 rand just to keep UCT quiet. Having that access to sit in a class and to be able to just study without having to stress allowed me to find a job and then to be able to negotiate to do my master's part-time. And through going through this whole experience, and I began to notice some weird patterns going through undergraduate. And that's where you learn a lot about inequality in this country. You had kids who were living a good life, and they would come to school, and like you could see everything was going well. And they had friends from Eastern Cape, had friends from Mpumalanga, from Limpopo, who were still humble and who, on the surface, seemed okay. But every time I joke, I was sitting in the class in the biochemistry, and I would ask this friend, how's life, man? And he would joke that life is a choice. You choose to be happy every day. I was like, okay, cool, man. I hope you prepared for the test, because that's too deep for me. But began to learn later on that it was like a whole mental health crisis that affects poor kids at university. That there's all these competing demands. You made it. You had a little bit of scholarship. Some of them had to weren't prepared for university. Maybe they had to repeat the course. They had to repeat the year, and the bursary, the NSFAS, the loan was capped. So they had to think about the family with a little bit of that money that they had. And I'm using this image, which was published by The Guardian, just sort of depicting what student life goes through. While some students are having a good time in the next room, you got a student there working hard because they know they can't afford to stuff up, and then you got somebody else who's stressing about how, besides themselves, what about their siblings, the younger self. I had a friend who both of his parents died from HIV. I don't know how people did it, but he had two younger brothers that he was taking care of in Soweto. He had a kid in KZN that he was taking care of, and I was like, how are you surviving, dude? But it shows the resilience, and some people had also gotten through university the same way that I did. And so I began to realize that beyond giving people access into these spaces that would change their life, you actually need to walk with them. And I was lucky to have a social network. I was also lucky to have parents that were rooting for me. I was also lucky to have friends who were resourced, that I didn't have to go through university life by myself. But there was like a whole population of young people who on the brink of suicide, who are depressed, and who have all these issues going on. But for those of us who make it, I think by fourth year, we started with a class of 80, and I think about 20 in the class. The small little investment that people make into our lives, the little commitments, the social networks that young people, just simple everyday friends, community, people from church can make an impact. Because for me, and this is my story, and this is the exciting part, with this investment, I was able to find work and gain some experience and really sort of nurture my career. And I found out this week that I won a European Union fellowship to do a research I've been wanting to do for a long time at the University of Glasgow and also at University of Barcelona. And when I found out, it really broke me, because I began to make the connections of I owe this to the whole village of people who supported me. I went back to a village where I'm originally from, and it hit me that I'm probably one in 100,000 that has made it this far. And for people to understand this idea of connectedness and how we're in a position of power, you have to understand that you're part of a village. You might be one in your school that made it. While, if I look at a friend that went to school here in Rondebosch, everybody went to UCT. Like, everybody is going to become a manager, CEO somewhere. So I was like, you can never understand this. if you're not connecting yourself with people who, the 1 in 100 who've made it to where they are. So my call to you is that I'm not going to prescribe ways that you can do this idea of restitution through education, but I thought I would summarize based on sort of things that I learned through my journey, is that doing restitution doesn't have to take these grand ideas, you know. Sometimes we get smart and we come up with this fancy policy idea on how to transform things, but sometimes it's finding people who are already doing the work. We've got a bunch of NGOs here who are already involved, who are connected with young people who want to really aspire to greater things in their life. Another is being a champion for restitution. I have a friend who went through whole of undergraduate and postgrad by having there was a girl from Joburg who came to do some volunteering work in Cape Town, and they found out there were kids who were part of an after-school program who were getting A's, who were doing really well, but nobody was going to pick them up. They were just going to get lost in the system. Some of them even were brought out of the street, and she used her network, her family, knew people, some people at the Standard Bank. So, they managed to get them a Standard Bank scholarship, and all of them managed to finish undergraduate and have good jobs. And I was sitting next to them and was like, that's how you got through life? Some 24-year-old just came to volunteer and managed to get you a scholarship? I was like, yeah, this is all her work. So being a champion for restitution, you realize you have power. We have so much power that you just don't even realize it. Give your time and skills to people who may benefit. I've recently been approached by people who are applying for postgrad, applying for undergrad, who, can you proofread my application? Can you make sure, how did you get into your postgrad? I said, look, this is what you need. So I've been giving a little bit of my time and the skills that I've acquired to help people put an application together, to be able to write motivation letters. And so that's where I realized, by having access to all of those things, that I can give my time and resources. And for those who are in a position of power, who are managers, who take chances on somebody. Where I work, sometimes I see graduate students coming and can see they're a little bit lost. They're trying to figure out where their career, what things interest them. I said, bring them to the table, let them sit in meetings, give them exposure that will allow them to be able to compete in a so unequal playing ground. There's some kids who come from bishops and they have confidence, and I'm just like, you're like a 22-year-old with the confidence of a mountain. Like, they're ready to take over the place, and I'm like, you can't compete with that unless you're given the platform to be able to compete. And lastly, finding a community that is diverse. One of the things that we learned in our restitution group was that one of the major challenges that we realize we don't have genuine friendship or relationship with people across cultures and races. You have your white friends that you hang out at work, you have your white friends that you hang out at church, but you don't really form bonds. And bonds take a long time, and generally as adults we're not very good at bonding with people. So finding ways to make use of your circles, the church, the youth groups, whatever clubs that you're in, to be able to bring in other people, not as tokens, but to be able to bridge the gaps so you know where the needs are, so they can also implant into your life. It doesn't have to be a unidirectional thing. And lastly, it's a call for all of us who've been privileged to access education, that we are free, and our job is to free others. And since we have power, our job is to empower somebody else. Thank you.